Why aren't the months of the year called month 1, month 2, month 3, and so on? The toddlers in my nursery class can't even pronounce February properly. It's not February for the 100th time, Thomas. You have probably guessed it. They're named after gods and goddesses, and Roman mythology, and stuff like that. But would you believe me if I said that January wasn't even the first month of the year? The ancient Romans used a different calendar that started from March and ended in February. We might have figured out a new system for the calendar, but the ancient Romans gave us something that is still very important: the names of the months. So how did the ancient Romans decide to name the months the way that they are? Let's start with March. The ancient Romans used to celebrate many festivals in the month of March, as it was the earliest part of their year. Historians believe the Romans named this month after Mars, the Roman god of war. Next is April. There are a few theories regarding how this month was named. Some say that April came from the Latin word aprilis, which is a derivative of the Latin base apero, meaning second, since April was counted as the second month. Others claim that it came from the Latin word aperire, which means to open, and this was meant to symbolize the opening of the buds and flowers in spring. And lastly, others believe it was named after the Roman goddess Aphrodite. May was named after the earth goddess of growing plants, Maia, daughter of Atlas and mother of Hermes. This is self-explanatory, as the springtime months are when flowers and crops burst forth. June, named after the queen of the gods and patronesses of marriage, weddings, and childbirth, Juno. Apparently, June has been the popular time of the year for weddings. July. Previously, this month was called Quintilis, which is the Latin word for fifth. But in 44 BC, it was named in the honor of Julius Caesar after his assassination. July was the month in which he was born. July was the first month to be named after a real person and not a god or goddess. August previously was called Sextilia, which is the Latin word for sixth. In 8 BC, it was named after Augustus Caesar, who was the nephew of Julius Caesar and the first emperor of Rome. He thought it was pretty cool to have a month named after him, so that's how that happened. The month naming trend ended there though. As for September, October, November, and December, we have them as the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th month of the year. But they were the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th month on the ancient Roman calendar. September comes from the Latin word septem for 7, October comes from the Latin word octo for 8, November comes from the Latin word novem from 9, and December comes from the Latin word decem for 10. Until this time, the Roman calendar was a mess, with missing months at the end of every year when people just had to wait out the winter season until March came around, which was the new year. Around 690 BC, the king Numa Pompilius turned the period of celebration at the end of the year into a month named after the purification festival, Februa, that was held. And so, February was added to the calendar. Later, King Numa Pompilius added the month of January to the beginning of the year and named it after the god of beginnings and endings, Janus. Janus is portrayed as a two-faced god, representing that he looked both ways into the past and into the future. In 1582, Pope Gregory adjusted the calendar, which came to be known as the Gregorian calendar. From then on, the Western nations began celebrating the festivals like the Romans did at the end and beginning of the year on December 31st and January 1st. Now that we've figured the months of the year, let's break it down into weeks. How were the days of the week named? Have you ever wondered why the weeks are 7 days long and not 8 or 9? Sometimes we need a couple more days added to our weekends, right? The 7-day week originates from the Babylonian calendar, which marked time with lunar months. The moon cycle is 29.53 days long, and it takes 7 days for the moon to transition between each phase, which is the full moon, waning half moon, new moon, and waxing half moon. The Babylonians would add in any missing days into their final week of each month. This 7-day period was later regularized and disassociated with the lunar month to become what we use as our calendar today. Now coming to how they were named, the Greeks, Romans, and Germanic people all named the days of the week after their gods, and they used similar gods. For example, the Greeks named the days after the sun, moon, and 5 known planets, which in turn was named after the gods: Ares, Hermes, Zeus, Aphrodite, and Cronus. They used to call the days of the week the days of the gods. The Romans substituted their god equivalents for the Greek gods: Mars, Mercury, Jove, which was Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. The Germanic people also used their god equivalents based on Norse mythology for the Roman god, except Saturn, and used Twi, Odin, Thor, and Freya. So as you can see, the names of the days of the week are a mixture of the Greek, Roman, and Norse mythology. What we have today bear remnants of the Greek and Roman traditions, but are filtered through the centuries of Germanic Norse mythology. To start with, Sunday comes from the Old English Sunnandag, which is derived from the Germanic and Latin words dies solis in Latin and Sunnandagas in Germanic, which both mean day of the sun. Next is Monday, or Moon's Day. The Old English is Monandag, named after Mani, which is the Norse god of moon. Tuesday, or Tuesday, comes from the Old English Twiesdag, from the Norse god of war, Twi or Tyr. Tyr is equated to the Roman god of war, Mars. Wednesday, or Woden's Day, comes from the Old English Wodensdag, was named after Odin, the ruler and most powerful of the Norse gods. The Roman god Mercury is connected with the Norse god Odin, as they were both believed as the guides of souls after death. Thursday, or Thor's Day, comes from the Old English Thorisdag, was named after Thor, the Norse god of thunder. Thor is equated to the Roman god Jupiter, who, as well as being the king of gods, was also the god of the sky and thunder. Friday, or Freya's Day, comes from the Old English Frigidag. Some scholars believe it was named after the wife of Odin, named Frigg or Freya. Other scholars believe Frigg and Freya are two separate gods. Freya was the goddess of beauty and fertility, and is equated to Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty, and Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty. As for Saturday, the Germanic people did not assign a god to this day of the week, so the Roman name stuck around. Saturn is the Roman god who is equated with the Greek god Cronus. The months of the year and the days of the week we use today all come from pagan beliefs of ancient peoples. Now the question that is left is, why do we still use these names, when we believe that the Norse and ancient Greek and Roman traditions are nothing but mythology? I guess we've just gotten used to saying, "Yay, it's Friday, last day of the week," or "Oh no, it's Monday, so soon already."